It's Wednesday, 4th of November 25, and I watched a press conference by Reform yesterday. Um, Nigel Farage and Zia Youssef, who recently gave up his Doge thing. It'd be interesting to know the background of that. It's Richard Tice that's taking over it. In fact, I'll probably make a video about it. Um, yeah, anyway. And it was asked a question about proportional representation, which is what I want to talk about, because Nigel Farage has always said he's in favour of it, and I think all the Reform MPs are in favour of it, except Rupert Lowe when he was there, because he said when they used to discuss it, he was the only one in favour of first past the post. But he was asked a question on it yesterday, and he didn't answer it about proportional representation, which to me means, I thought this anyway, is now that he's winner takes all, now that Reform are the ones that are going to be the winners that take all with a low amount of vote. We'll be below 50%. Now he wants it, he probably wants to stick with first past the post. And this is the current state of affairs, just to show you. This is a poll. The press conference was yesterday morning, and it was the 3rd of November yesterday, so this includes their press conference, and I think it's pretty strange because Labour are up 3%, which I just can't understand at all. Don't know if it's anything to do with their press conference, because it was about the economy. I really just can't tell, but in a YouGov poll, Reform are only about 27%. In other pollsters, they're 32%, 35%. Reform seems to be quite, quote, socially conservative when on these, but maybe it's a different mythology. Maybe Reform still rely on don't knows a lot and using their previous vote, whatever, which doesn't really count anymore from what I can see, because people have changed so radically from the old tribal football team type of thing, voting Labour or Conservative. Greens, they're up there at 16%. That's phenomenal under Zach Polansky. I know that Zach Polansky is a big supporter of proportional representation. I think the Greens always were, but Zach has especially, because I think he originally joined the Lib Dems on that issue 10 years ago, and then he done an election 2015 debate with in Keir Starmer's constituency, and it was him, Keir Starmer, and Natalie Bennett, the leader of the Greens. At the time he was representing Lib Dems, but he thought the Greens were so good that he switched to the Greens basically, and he said Keir Starmer was pretty rubbish in the debate, which is probably fair enough, definitely fair enough. So I'm just looking at this just now. I'm just making a video about the first past the post question. I'm a big proportional representation supporter, because I think everyone's vote should count, At the moment, really, we've got rotten boroughs, basically, the rotten borough system, where, winner takes all in the constituencies and even in the country. This is the notes I've taken about it. Nigel and Richard Tice and that, they all supported proportional representation, but now they stay quiet on it. And only Rupert Lowe of the MPs supported it, of the Reform MPs, when he was in there. I'm a big supporter of Rupert, although I do find him sort of, especially in one or two issues, but I think he's a bit old-fashioned as well, so I see him as a sort of useful door breaker down, something like that, I don't agree with him definitely in everything. He's like an old sergeant major or something, and I can understand why Reform get rid of him, basically. Although I'm a big supporter of what he's doing as an independent MP and Restore UK, I still understand why it was probably impossible he's not a team player, put it that way, I don't think. Personally I support the Swiss system, regular referendums, direct democracy. Probably as a model, I would even probably go further than that, but definitely that's a structure. I regard Switzerland probably as the only true democracy in the world, really. So the conference yesterday was about the economy because Labour are having their budget. Is it today? No, tomorrow. And um, so Reform are having a press conference, which they do quite often, which I fully support. It's probably Zia Yusuf's got them doing YouTube stuff all the time, or social media stuff live, where people, they don't get it through the legacy corporate media, which will bias it and stuff. I can't bear the legacy corporate media, really. I mean, personally, I don't watch them at all now, really. I don't watch BBC, ITV or anything, or Sky News, and even GB News, which I support, but then there's a lot of good anchors still there, like Patrick Christie's and Ben Leo and Martin Dobney's, but I fizzled out a bit, especially since they started getting opposite views, which I just can't be bothered with, really. Did Nigel Farage, and I'm only bothered about one issue, really, so did Nigel Farage mention PR voting yesterday? Yeah, it's an insightful question. This is Google Gemini, which I think is fantastic. AI is fantastic, Grok, they're all just wise people. That's how I see them. They may get things wrong a bit, but they're really wise, and the way they put words together is fantastic. Given his past support, Nigel's past support for the system and his party's current polling, for proportional representation. Yes, Nigel Farage's stance on PR came up yesterday, November 3rd, 25th, during a press conference where he delivered an economic speech. The key point is that he declined to answer the question. Yeah, because the journalist asked him a few questions and Nigel just answered the other ones. And I'd be really disappointed if he's turning on this, because it's short-termism and it's poacher turned gamekeeper, because at the moment Reform are in the same situation that Labour were in 2024 general election, because Keir Starmer get less votes than Jeremy Corbyn did in 2019, but he got only 59% turned out, and it's one of the lowest turnouts ever, if not the lowest, since the war. Labour only get around about 34% of that vote, which is, I think, it's the lowest. I think that anyone's got to be Prime Minister. But he gets 66% of the MPs, and he's been going on about how he's got an overwhelming mandate. He's never had a mandate, not even on the day he got elected. He never had a mandate. He should have been saying, right, I'm going to change it to proportional representation. I'm going to make it democratic. This is ridiculous. Instead, he's ploughed on with the first past the post. And even though Labour now are down at 17% or something, and now Nigel's doing the exact opposite. He's moving away from PR, because when he was with UKIP and even the Reform Party last year, they got a lot more voters than they did for considering the amount of MPs they got, because in 2015 I think they got about 4 million in the votes and they only got about 2 MPs, which is ridiculous, because they didn't get concentrated votes that could beat somebody else in the seat. So I'm really disappointed, because it's very short term, and I'm pretty sure he has changed. He's going to be a first past the post fan now, because it really is dictatorship stuff, really, So he declined to answer the question when asked directly by a journalist. He's a long-standing advocate. Farage has historically been a strong supporter of PR, especially when parties like UKIP and Reform UK received a high number of votes, but few seats under the UK's current first-past-the-post system. Yeah, current shift. Recent reports and commentary suggest he has changed his view because Reform UK's polling has risen significantly. The wildly distorting nature of the first-past-the-post system means that with current polling, Reform UK could potentially win a large majority of seats on a relatively low share of the national vote, e.g. just over a quarter. Yeah, because some pollsters have them at 35%, I'm not seeing them any higher than that. I mean, Labour and the Tories used to have about 40%, 45%. I mean, it was ridiculous. I'm talking even just before the last general election. Labour were on like 45%. I didn't think that was real, you know. And in the council elections in May 24, they only got about 35% of the votes, and that's how it turned out nationally as well. And now they're in about 17% in polls. So both Labour and Reform are behaving badly on this, in my opinion. And he previously told Sky News Australia, I think this was actually recently, that first past the post was becoming his friend. So that was Sky News Australia. I wonder if he was keeping that silent from the UK, you know. Yesterday's silence. When asked about his support for PR yesterday, he chose not to respond, which has been interpreted by many commentators and political opponents as confirming he has dropped his long-held commitment to electoral reform now that the current system appears to favour his party's route to power. So, I mean, for me, that's a disgrace, really, you know. But, even though I'm Overton window voting, one issue I'm voting on, and at the moment, it would be very handy for me for reform to be overwhelming. I mean, we're talking about some of them posters have them in 478 seats, and there's only about 620 seats in Parliament, you know. Um, and that's sort of what Labour are like at the moment. I think they're on 400 seats at the moment or something, or maybe a lot more. But that's because it's skewed, you know. I mean, Labour currently should have 34% of the seats. So I'm really disappointed in that, you know. I have suspected he was going to do this, you know, but it's very short term. I think everyone's going to get fed up with first past the post given weird results, and especially now we're not voting just for two parties anymore. It's not tribal anymore with Labour and Tory. People abandon them. We've got your party coming up, Jeremy Corbyn's party. We've got Advance UK coming up that's going to steal some of Reform's vote, probably. So, yeah, we've really got to go to the Swiss electoral system, in my opinion. Okay, that's all for now. Bye.